this uncertainty and the perception of a chaotic decision-making process in America is actually in some ways the most important thing that comes out of this. The
Yes.
idea that a chaotic region, the Middle East, after 15 years of war and revolutions and the appalling war over Gaza, is now subject to this very whimsical decision making, is
Yes.
very destabilising for the region. It's
Yep.
destabilising for America as well, I would argue.
And let us then talk to Richard Spencer, the Middle East correspondent for The Times. Welcome to you, Richard.
Good evening.
Hi, Richard. It would be wrong for anyone to imagine, if anyone does imagine, that this could be a simple decision to authorise a short, conclusive military strike to wipe out Iran's nuclear capability, but without unpredictable and dangerous consequences, would it not?
I think one important thing which we haven't really addressed is the way that this decision is being made is in some ways as important as the decision itself. If we if we believe what we read, then the decision before President Trump was quite simple. He could send in bombers. He could use those bombers to attack, maybe destroy this Fordo enrichment plant, the one that's buried deep in the mountain. His military planners say they could do that with the weaponry available to them and to them alone. That could be a simple, swift strike, and then they could get out again, and Iran would be left as an intact nation. It would have the possibly the technical know-how to rebuild a weapons program, a nuclear program over the years if it chose to do so. But that was always on the cards. That's always what was possible. But this simple decision has been surrounded by lots of other messaging. Will he do it? Will he not do it? His whole uncertainty coming to power on the back of a anti-interventionist ticket. We're not going to get involved in the Middle East. Oh, maybe we are going to get involved because we might actually bomb another country that we haven't bombed before. All in the spectrum, if you like, or all in the background of an Israel that itself is being very ambiguous about what it wants from its operations in Iran. Does it want regime change? Is it just trying to set back the Iranian nuclear program by a year? Or is it somewhere in between? This uncertainty and the perception of a chaotic decision-making process in America is actually in some ways the most important thing that comes out of this. The idea that a chaotic region, the Middle East, after 15 years of war and revolutions and the appalling war over Gaza, is now subject to this very whimsical decision making, is very destabilising for the region. It's destabilising for America as well, I would argue.
Yeah, and even the operation itself, Richard, which one could describe very, very simply. A bomb is dropped from enormously high altitude, a 30,000-pound bomb on a mountain, with the idea of destroying the nuclear facility underneath. But it might not be destroyed, and maybe one of the bombers could be shot down, or it could be followed by a missile strike on an American base, which could kill American military personnel. That widens the whole thing out dramatically, very, very, very quickly. What about the nuclear capacity, Richard? I mean, what is the best assessment that there is on how close Iran is to possessing a nuclear weapon using the enriched uranium that we know that it does have?
And the interesting answer is that the technical answer, and this is an answer that's pretty much agreed by everyone. It's not the same as the other aspects of this crisis remind us of what happened in Iraq and WMD and all that in 2003. But this bit is very different. Nobody disagrees with the fact that Iran itself has declared that it has 60% enriched uranium, which is only one step short of weapons grade uranium. It's you only need that degree of uranium, enriched uranium, if you are going to make a nuclear weapon. Iran says that is there as simply as a bargaining tool, as a negotiating tool. They might be right, but it's a pretty dangerous bluff to play, that one, I'd say. But on the basis that it has 60% uranium, then it needs to turn that into a deliverable weapon, a deliverable missile. And that requires other things, which are quite complicated, like turning the gaseous enriched uranium into a metal, turning that metal into a warhead, putting that warhead on a missile and fitting to it a very specialized trigger mechanism that nuclear weapons need. Now, Iran is working on all those aspects, according to both US and Israeli intelligence. Where they differ is how fast they're doing it and, what the actual intention behind that is. Is it just another bluff, another bargaining tactic, or are they actually rushing to make a weapon? But again, there isn't much dispute that it's still months away. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, said in an interview that their assessment was that it was months but less than a year before Iran, working at its current pace, could make a nuclear weapon. But that's been the case in most intelligence assessments for a number of years now. So what may have changed is the intent, if you like, the intent to speed up. We've had leaks to Israeli media that there have been changes in the pace at which they're progressing. But as I say, Netanyahu said, and as others have said for years now, between months and a year, or maybe just over a year.
All right, Richard, thank you. Richard Spencer there from The Times. Now, hello and welcome to Drive to Sir Simon MacDonald, the former head of the Foreign Office. Welcome to you, Simon. Do you believe that Britain should support America in taking military action against Iran? And if so, how far should that support go?
I think it's a really difficult question for the United Kingdom. In some ways, perhaps an academic question, because the United States can mount this operation if it chooses to do. If President Trump decides in the next hour that is what he wants to do, US forces will be able to do this without the United Kingdom. But it could be that it would be easier for the US to do this with some UK assets or bases.
Yeah.
So we could be faced with the question, and the Prime Minister and his cabinet will face a very tricky decision. He is advocating de-escalation. I think it's pretty obvious why. An escalating crisis destabilises the Middle East, but it also threatens world oil supplies. One thing that Iran could do relatively easily is close the Straits of Hormuz.
Yes.
And everybody would feel that. Everybody's economy would feel that quickly. So it's a logical position to hold, but it's not one that he might be able to hold for very long.
Yes, and as for helping the American military operation, one of the bases the Americans might wish to use is Diego Garcia.
Indeed.
Of course. Were that to be allowed, because it's up to the British government whether that's possible or permissible, I wonder, would that invite Iranian reprisals? And Simon, should that be a consideration?
I think that will undoubtedly be weighed by the PM and cabinet. We would make ourselves, in Iranian eyes, a legitimate target, not as big a target as the United States. I mean, it would be ancillary help. I would be amazed if British ordnance or British aeroplanes were to be involved. But American planes starting their operation in Diego Garcia is quite easy to imagine.
Yeah, and I guess there's also the question of, do you want to stay on Donald Trump's good side? If Britain said no, you can't use our military base, what would that mean for relations with the president? I think we know that President Trump is capable of punishing an ally that invites his displeasure. I mean, he said that the trade agreement that we've just agreed will hold because he likes Britain.
Yeah.
And what if he stops liking Britain?
Well, of course, the relations could sour quickly. But that's why it's a good thing that the Foreign Secretary is in Washington today, because he can feed in British views into the top of the American system before decisions are taken. But you are right. If the decision taken is to go, if the favoured operation involves use of a British base, then we will have a very difficult decision, which has to be taken very quickly. And we take that in the knowledge that if it's not the decision the president likes, we will suffer.
Right, and I just wonder what your thoughts are on the legality of British involvement in an attack on Iran. The Attorney General is reportedly concerned about falling foul of international law, and there's a distinction, he argues, between a defensive action and offensive action. I mean, how will that play into the discussions in the British camp that are happening now?
of course that will play, and of course the United Kingdom will operate within international law, but in the end it's not the Attorney General but the Prime Minister who takes this decision, and this is a political as well as legal decision. The Israelis, the surprise to me in the last week is the Israelis were able to start a campaign against Iranian facilities by themselves. Where we are at right now, it seems that they can't finish it by themselves, that they need the US to do the really hard targets. So I'm sure that that is the conversation that Mr. Netanyahu is having with Mr. Trump.
Yeah.
And at some point in the next 12 or 24 hours, there may be consequences for the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, the law is still an important issue, isn't it, potentially? I mean, before the Iraq War, the then Attorney General, he didn't like the idea of British involvement, and the then Prime Minister, Tony Blair, had to talk him round before British involvement could happen. A standoff
British involvement was at a completely different scale, John.
It was.
In the Iraq War. I think more similar is the American raid against Gaddafi's compound in the 1980s, where it was American bases in the United Kingdom that were used. That, as far as I remember, that was the only British involvement, but it was high profile and a problem between Libya and the United Kingdom for many years thereafter. So that is the parallel, I suspect, that will be in officials and ministers' minds today.
I'm sure that